Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're looking at something I think a lot of people struggle with, which is communication strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, we've got a whole stack of sources here that are all about these really practical daily techniques, things you can do to, dramatically speed up your journey to English fluency.
And I think it's important to say right up front, this isn't a deep dive into like complex grammar rules or textbook exercises.
No, hey, not at all.
The material we've been through it's intensely practical. It lays out 5 really distinct, really actionable steps that honestly anyone could start putting into their routine tomorrow.
So our mission today is to get into the mechanics of that and, the philosophy behind it. It's really a deep dive into efficiency and building habits that actually stick.
Exactly. Sustainable learning.
Let's start with that core philosophy then, because I feel like it's the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
It really is.
The central idea in all these sources is, well, it's pretty simple, but it's also kind of profound. Learning language isn't a sprint.
It's a marathon.
Yeah.
It requires that consistent daily effort. And they use this one analogy that I thought was just fantastic. It really captures why the old ways of studying just fail for so many people.
Oh, the violin one.
The violin, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. If you're learning to play the violin, you can't just practice for 8 hours on a Saturday and expect to be any good.
Right, you can't cram it. Your fingers won't know what to do. There's a muscle memory component.
That's the word, muscle memory. Your brain, your mouth, your ears, it all works on that same principle. The sources are really clear on this, trying to cram vocabulary the night before a test.
It's useless for fluency. You might pass the test, sure.
You might pass the test, but the information it vanishes. Fluency isn't about knowing a list of words.
It's about automaticity, right?
Exactly. It's about the language just flowing without you having to consciously think about every single word. And that only comes from small, consistent, daily repetition.
So showing up for 15 minutes every single day is better than one massive 8-hour session once a week.
It's exponentially better. It feels counterintuitive, I think, to the study hard idea we all got in school.
Yeah, totally. And they mentioned that if you miss a day, it creates this kind of friction. It's harder to get back into it than you'd think. It's the daily rhythm that's so important.
It's a neurological thing. It's like a compounding effect. When you practice every day, your brain moves that new information from short-term memory into long-term procedural memory so much faster.
So if you skip a day, you're not just losing a day of progress, you're going backward a bit. You have to spend the next session just catching up.
You're relearning instead of progressing. And that's why this whole approach, this small dose method, is so perfect for the kind of learner we're talking about. Someone who wants deep knowledge that actually sticks.
Okay, so our mission here is to give that daily effort some structure. We've got 5 specific practices to walk through, and they're all about integrating the language into your life.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like a chore, and we're going to cover a few different modes of learning to make sure it's comprehensive. We've got 5 pillars, you could say.
So what are they?
First, a really specific kind of audio immersion. Second is about structured, and this is key, verified interaction. Third and fourth are actually a linked 2-step system for vocabulary building.
Okay.
And then finally, something called purposeful translation, which is all about focusing on your own passions.
That's a great roadmap. Let's dive right into practice 1, because this is where the sources get, well, a little unconventional, I think.
I agree.
The first piece of advice for daily immersion is to follow an audio soap opera.
And we should probably define soap opera here because the sources are very specific. It's not necessarily what you might think.
Right, not the big dramatic TV shows.
Not necessarily. They define it as a daily serial that's all about the very routine, everyday lives of a small group of characters in the same location. Think of those classic UK shows like EastEnders or Coronation Street.
They're cultural institutions because they're about, the mundane stuff of life.
Exactly. But the twist here, the really important part, is that the recommendation isn't for television, it's audio only.
Which forces you to really listen, really. It builds that oral comprehension, which is often the last skill people properly develop. And they don't just say, listen to any audio drama. They point to one specific program.
They do. They're very direct. The recommendation is The Archers from BBC Radio 4.
And what's so special about The Archers? Why that one?
Well, there are a few reasons, and it's actually fascinating when you break it down. First, it has this incredible history and stability. It's the longest running drama in history. It started way back in 1950.
Wow.
So you have decades of, clear, well-paced storytelling. The dialogue is generally very easy to follow.
Okay, I have to push back a little on this. I mean, if you're a really motivated learner, someone who listens to this deep dive, shouldn't you be aiming for more? Like, 45 minutes of audio a day, is 12 minutes really going to move the needle?
That's a great question. And it brings us right back to the violin analogy. The magic of The Archers is precisely its short length.
How so?
Each episode is really short. We're talking 12 to 14 minutes. It's always under 15. And that fits perfectly with that small daily dose philosophy. A 15-minute commitment is, well, it's easy.
There's no friction.
There's no friction. You can listen while you're making coffee or on a short commute. If you try to force yourself to do 45 minutes of intense listening every day, the chances of burnout, of just skipping a day, they go way up.
And then you lose the rhythm. So the brevity is actually a feature, not a bug. It ensures you'll stick with it.
Exactly. It ensures sustainability.
Okay, what about the content? I mean, it's set in a fictional English village, right?
Yeah.
Ambridge. Is the vocabulary going to be practical for someone working in, say, tech or business?
I'd argue yes, absolutely. Because while the setting is rural, the stories are about daily life, about social dynamics. They talk about current events, local politics, planning events, arguing with people.
Stuff of real conversation.
It's the bedrock of practical conversational English. You're not learning super specialized jargon. You're learning the essential words you need to just talk to people.
That's a great point. Practicality over specialization.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about accessibility, because this is where it gets really good for the learner who wants to be thorough.
This is the game changer. So it's spoken in clear English, but you do get a variety of British accents, which is great for your ear. But the real utility is what the BBC does to support it.
The website.
The website, yeah. They post plot summaries right after the episodes air. So imagine you're listening and you miss a key bit of dialogue or some slang.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. Instead of getting frustrated and just giving up, you can pause, go read the summary, get the context, and then you can re-listen to that segment.
So it's not passive listening. It's active comprehension. You have a built-in way to check your understanding.
It's a feedback loop, and the whole format is designed for consistency. It's on every day except Saturday, and if you miss the week or you prefer to binge...
There's the omnibus edition on Sundays.
Right. The weekly omnibus condenses it all into about 75 minutes, perfect for a long review session.
So that daily 10 or 15 minutes is your baseline for listening and intonation.
And there's another layer to this, which is the community. It's free, it's beautifully produced, and it has this massive, dedicated fan base.
Which opens up the next actionable step. The sources suggest going on social media, like Twitter, and searching the hashtag #Zerchers.
And this isn't just for fun. This is about turning a solitary listening practice into an interactive one.
Right. You're suddenly in a conversation with thousands of native speakers about something you all share.
You can read their opinions, see how they phrase things, and maybe even chime in with your own thoughts. It turns a 15-minute listening task into a reading, processing, and maybe even a writing task.
Okay, so practice one is sorted. A really efficient, low-friction way to get daily audio immersion. That brings us to practice two, which is the one everyone fears, actually speaking.
The universal hurdle. Yeah, everyone wants to talk to natives every day, but it's hard to find people. It can be expensive. It's tough to be consistent.
So the sources acknowledge that, and they lay out two main paths.
Two primary solutions, yep. The first is the paid option. Online classes, tutors, formal lessons. You're guaranteed professional feedback.
And the second is the free option, language exchanges, where you teach them your language for a bit, and they teach you English.
And, a lot of people will just default to the free option to save money. But the really deep insight from the sources is that the best strategy isn't to pick one.
It's to do both.
It's to create a hybrid model. Combining paid and free resources is, and they're very clear on this, the single best method for maximizing both your speed and your accuracy.
Okay, but why? If you can get speaking practice for free every day, why pay for a teacher at all? It seems kind of inefficient.
It comes down to the difference between fluency and accuracy. They're not the same thing.
Explain that.
Language exchanges are amazing for fluency. They're low pressure, you get tons of practice, and you're forced to think on your feet. You have to retrieve words quickly. It's how you break that habit of translating everything in your head first.
So you get speed and confidence from the free exchange.
Exactly, but
Hmm.
And this is a big but, your exchange partner probably isn't a trained teacher.
Right, they're just a native speaker.
They're not going to catch your subtle, repeated mistakes. Like if you're always using the wrong preposition or getting a tense slightly wrong. If a mistake doesn't completely break communication, they'll probably just let it slide.
And if you practice that mistake over and over,
You're just getting really, really good at making that mistake. You're hardwiring a bad habit.
okay, so the paid teachers like quality control, they're the auditor who comes in and checks your work.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're your quality control. The strategy they suggest is really elegant. Use the free exchanges as your daily lab.
Mhm.
Be messy, try new things, build up your speed.
And then what?
Then, once or twice a week, you take all that raw material to your paid teacher. You go to the expert for verification.
So you could literally say, hey, I tried using this phrase in a conversation. Did I use it right?
Precisely. It provides, as the sources call it, an extra layer of security. You take the slang, the tricky sentences, the things you think you might be getting wrong, and you get a professional opinion.
That's a much more efficient way to use a teacher's time and your money. You're not paying them for basic conversation practice. You're paying them for targeted expert correction.
Exactly. It respects what each resource is good for. You maximize quantity with the free exchanges, and you maximize quality with the paid teacher. For the learner who demands thoroughness, this is the way.
And I imagine they have advice on how to pick good partners and teachers.
They do. For exchanges, the key is reliability and shared goals. Agree on the time split up front and stick to it. And find someone whose skill in your language is about the same as your skill in English. It creates mutual patience.
That makes sense. And for the teacher.
With the teacher, you want someone who is good at diagnosing systemic errors, not just correcting one-off words. Ask them how they give feedback. The best ones, according to the sources, are the ones who can analyze your patterns of error, especially in your writing, which is actually a perfect transition.
Right, so we've got a system for daily speaking practice. But the big question is always, what do you talk about? You need fuel. And that takes us straight into practices 3 and 4, the integrated vocabulary loop.
This is where it gets really personal and self-directed. This system is designed for, well, pretty aggressive vocabulary building, but it has this immediate integration step built in.
So tip 3 is the first part of that, the acquisition, setting a daily word goal.
The goal is simple. Learn at least one new word a day, but hopefully more. But the real genius here isn't the number, it's the method for capturing the words. It's called the word diary.
And this is about changing how you see the world, right?
It's a total cognitive shift. You have to train yourself to be constantly aware, constantly hungry for new words. You need a notebook or a note on your phone with you at all times.
And the practice is to constantly question your own knowledge. The sources give these great little examples, like you're walking in a park and you see a specific kind of tree.
Right. Most people would just think tree. But the word diary method demands that you stop and ask yourself, do I actually know the English word for that specific tree?
And when you realize you don't look it up right away. This part is crucial.
Yes. You write the word or concept down in your own language, in your diary.
So if I'm a native Spanish speaker and I see an oak tree, I write robol in my list. Why do that? Why not just look it up immediately?
The delay is a psychological trick. It does two things. First, it doesn't break the flow of your day, but more importantly, it creates a sense of anticipation. Your brain holds on to that gap, that question for a few hours. It primes the pump for learning later.
It makes the eventual answer more memorable. Which brings us to the second half of tip 3, the end-of-day ritual.
This is non-negotiable. Before you go to sleep, you sit down with your list of words from the day, and then you research them. You find the English translation, the definition, maybe an example sentence.
And the timing, right before sleep, is really important for memory.
It's huge. It's all about memory consolidation. When you learn something new right before you sleep, your brain spends the night processing it, moving it from short-term to long-term storage. You're basically putting your new vocabulary at the top of the pile for your brain's nightly filing session.
So your brain is literally working on those new words while you sleep.
Exactly. And after a few weeks of this, your mindset completely changes. You start seeing these linguistic gaps everywhere. You become hungry for English. You start to notice words you didn't even know you didn't know.
Okay, that's practice 3, the acquisition phase. Practice 4 is the integration phase. It's what you do to make sure those words don't just disappear overnight.
Right. If you just memorize a word from a list, you'll probably forget it. You have to use it. You have to make it your own. And that's where the daily journal comes in.
Now, journaling isn't a new idea, But the way the sources describe it here is very specific.
It's a journal with a difference. The whole point of this journal is to be a tool to integrate the words you learned just moments before in your end-of-day ritual.
And they have a really clever tip about the physical journal itself.
Yeah, to stop people from feeling overwhelmed, they suggest using something like a weekly planner, where you can see all 7 days on a 2-page spread.
So each day just has a little box.
Exactly. It sets a visual and psychological limit. You know you're not supposed to write an essay, and this leads to the most important rule, the core constraint of the whole practice.
Which is?
You only write 3 or 4 sentences about your day. But, and this is the key, you must deliberately use the new words you learned from your word diary.
So you're forced to create a context for them.
You're forced to use them. You can't just write, today was a good day. If one of your new words was ephemeral, you have to think, okay, what part of my day was ephemeral? You're forcing the application.
Can you give us a quick example? Say you learned ephemeral and streamline.
Sure. A journal entry might be something like, my boss wants to streamline the new onboarding process, so the meeting about it was surprisingly short. The feeling of relief was ephemeral, though, because I realized I still had a huge report to finish.
Wow, okay. So in just 2 sentences, you've used both new words in a way that's personal and makes sense. You're confirming you understand the meaning.
You're confirming it, and you're connecting it to your own life, which makes it infinitely more memorable. And again, you're doing this right before you sleep.
So the words are fresh for memory consolidation.
And then first thing the next morning, you reread what you wrote the night before. It's like a quick flashcard review. It keeps those words at the front of your mind, ready to be used in conversation that day.
This is so efficient. In about 10 minutes, you're hitting vocabulary, writing, reading, and even pronunciation, if you look that up too.
It's a multi-skill powerhouse.
Yeah.
And it closes the loop by connecting back to practice 2, the teacher.
Right. You take your journal to your teacher.
You bring your week's worth of entries, just 2 pages in that planner, to your paid teacher. They can then correct not just the words, but how you're using them. They can catch any subtle errors in context or tone. It's the ultimate feedback system.
That whole system is an incredible engine for vocabulary. Okay, let's move to the final practice, number 5. This one deals with an issue that a lot of learners wrestle with. Translation.
The great translation debate, yeah. Every student is told, stop translating, think in English.
But the sources here argue that's not the whole story.
Not at all. They argue that translation, if you do it the right way, is still an incredibly powerful learning tool.
And the right way is to focus on subjects you're already passionate about. Photography, cooking, technology, whatever your hobby is.
Exactly. When you translate something you're genuinely interested in, you're not just swapping words, you're comparing concepts. You're seeing how technical terms or specific nuances are handled in both languages. It's a much deeper level of analysis.
And, like with the other tips, the sources give a very specific, very modern way to practice this. Using YouTube.
This is such a great practical tip. The idea is to contribute to subtitle translations on YouTube videos from creators you already love.
How does that work for anyone who hasn't seen it?
Well, a lot of creators upload their own English subtitles for their videos. YouTube's platform then allows the community people like you to translate those subtitles into other languages.
So you can practice in 2 different directions here.
2 really useful directions. You can find a video in your native language about your passion, and you can try translating the subtitles into English. That's active production.
Or you can do the reverse. Find an English video with English subtitles and translate them into your native language.
Which is a fantastic reading comprehension and translation exercise. You have to wrestle with idioms, with complex sentences.
Let's use that photography example. If a creator says depth of field, a direct word-for-word translation might make no sense in another language.
Right. You'd be forced to go and find the correct technical term that photographers in your country actually use. It forces you to be precise.
Or a tech YouTuber might say something like, you need to bootstrap the server. You have to figure out the actual meaning of that idiom in that context.
It's inherently critical work. And there's a huge motivational factor here, too. You're not just doing an exercise for yourself. You're actually helping a creator. You reach a bigger audience.
You often get your name credited under the video.
Which is a nice little reward. It turns learning into a meaningful contribution.
That really brings everything together. You're using the confidence from speaking, the vocabulary from your journal, and applying it all to complex material you actually care about.
It synthesizes the whole process. It ensures the English you're learning isn't just generic textbook English. It's the specific, high-level language you need for your actual interests.
So we've covered 5 practices, all built on that core idea of small, consistent daily effort, like learning the violin.
Yep. We started with practice 1, the daily audio immersion with the archers, just 12-15 minutes a day, using the BDC summaries to help.
Then practice 2, the hybrid model for interaction, free language exchanges for fluency, backed up by paid teachers for that extra layer of security and accuracy.
Followed by that powerful 2-part vocabulary system, practices 3 and 4, the word diary to capture new words, and the constrained journal to integrate them right before you sleep.
And finally, practice 5, using YouTube for passion-based translation, turning your hobbies into an analytical language lab.
The big takeaway here is that fluency isn't some huge, scary goal you attack once in a while. It's just the natural result of these small, targeted daily practices. If you can build the routine, fluency will follow.
You've got the blueprint. Now the commitment to that daily practice is up to you.
And here's a final thought to leave you with to kind of tie it all together. If you really commit to this structured path, especially that analytical vocabulary loop from tips 3 and 4, how can you then use the specific verified vocabulary from your daily journal to critically analyze the nuances you find when you're doing your passion-based translations in tip 5?
So connecting the two most analytical tips.
Exactly. How can you connect your most structured input with your most complex output? It forces you to move beyond just knowing a word to truly mastering its use in a context that you personally care about. Start that journal tonight.